everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia Leigh. I'm an indie author and full-time freelance editor, and today we are talking about editing and design services, more specifically at Enchanted Ink Publishing, which is my small business. We specialize in editing and design services for indie authors. I received a request to go over especially our editing services, to offer a bit more explanation about what each editing service entails, and then to offer my thoughts and 2 cents on which editing service would be best for you and when you might want to get those. So I went through and I made a list of every single service that we offer through Enchanted Ink Publishing. I'm going to briefly touch on these and then, give you my thoughts on when you might want to hire a professional for services such as these. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to drop them down below. This is going to be a little bit of a chatty video. I don't have anything necessarily planned out. I'm just going to give you my honest thoughts on each service and when/why you might want to get those services. Do keep in mind this is very specifically for EIP, but this video can also assist you across the board in terms of deciding, okay, when do I need a manuscript critique / editorial evaluation or editorial assessment versus when am I ready for copy editing? What do I need to prepare for proofreading? Should I pay for professional cover design? Should I pay for professional formatting? So even though I will be talking very specifically about Enchanted Ink, this can offer you guidance across the board, even if you don't plan to use EIP's services. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video. All right, we're going to start with the extra services. I used to call it the submission package. So the extra services, like the small a la carte services that EIP offers, are outline critiques, back cover blurb edits, and query letter cleanups. Now, I am the only one on the team, even though we have a team of 7 and 5 of those 7 are editors. I am the only one who specifically does the outline critique, back cover blurb edit, and query letter cleanup. So an outline critique, when might you need this or why might you want it? An outline critique can be really helpful if you need guidance before you even start writing your book. Oftentimes going over an outline, personally, when I'm reading a client's outline and going over it, I can often home in on not only plot holes, but lack of tension, lack of conflict, lack of stakes, more energy needing to be put into character development. Something that can be difficult to pin down in an outline critique is world building. Of course, you can give, if you're hiring an editor to do an outline critique, you can give that editor information about the world, but world building I have found really comes to life in the manuscript, so an outline critique isn't great for that. But in terms of getting guidance and a little bit of help before you sit down to write your first draft, which can take a lot of time and a lot of energy, getting an outline critique before you do that could be really helpful because you will be potentially and hopefully addressing plot problems before you even write your first draft. So instead of writing that first draft and then figuring out that you have a lack of stakes, for example, you'd be figuring it out earlier on, and then that will hopefully save you time down the road so that you're already kind of one step ahead when it comes time to write that first draft. Back cover blurb edit. I do a lot of these and I absolutely love it. I love editing blurbs. I do have a video that goes over my tips for how to write a back cover blurb. I will link that down below if you're interested. My back cover blurb editing service includes a couple of things. I'd say 2 or 3 things specifically. One is just basic copy editing. Whenever I read a blurb, I will naturally edit it for spelling, punctuation, grammar, usage, etc. So it's just a basic cleanup with a little copy edit. But then I go one step further, and that is diving into what your blurb is communicating to your potential audience. So are we communicating the main character's wants, the main problem that they're facing, what's at stake, what the conflict is, kind of is it Is it enough of a hook to get somebody to want to pick up that book? Is it adhering to genre conventions? Because, for example, I did a back cover blurb edit for an erotica a couple weeks ago, and erotica is a very different genre from YA fantasy, for example. So you'll find that the blurbs for those two different genres are wildly different. So what you'd expect to see on the back of an erotica versus what you would expect to see on the back of a YA fantasy are going to be very, very different. So I offer feedback regarding, okay, are you sticking within your genre conventions, and is this what a reader will expect to see, you know, on a blurb for a YA fantasy, for example. So if you need help with that, let me know, or you can check out that video down below where I give you a ton of tips for how to write a back cover blurb. Now, the last, like, a la carte service is a query letter cleanup. I have taken a class in how to successfully edit query letters. Now, something I want to mention when it comes to query letters, it can be, this can be a little bit of tough love, but no matter how good your query letter is, you have to jump through multiple hoops in order to get into traditional pub. That's very, very difficult. And of course, if that's something that you want, I encourage you to continue striving for it. But it is something to be aware of, that when you are querying an agent, there are so many steps along the way. So of course, you will want to pick an agent who represents what you write and is actively looking for new authors to represent. You will want to have a super strong query letter. I know I say the word super all the time in my videos, but you'll want to have a strong query letter, and that's where I can come in and I can assist you with making sure that you have relevant information in your query letter, that it's written in a professional way. It's both professional and a little casual at the same time, so that you can show the agent who you are. You can give them a little bit of glimpse of who you personally are as an author. So a mixture of professional, polite, and a little bit casual and fun. And you're just hitting on everything that's really required in that query letter. Of course, I do a copy edit, stuff like that, just making sure it's super clean. But even once you get to that point, then if the agent wants, you know, the first chapter, first 10 pages, if they want a full manuscript to look over, then you'd have to get through that as well. And something else to keep in mind if you are querying and you hope to be traditionally published is you could write an absolutely amazing story, but you also have to be aware of the market, because traditional publishing is a big business, and they have to select their manuscripts and their authors carefully, and they're going to select what they believe will sell well and make them money, and hopefully make you money as well. So do keep that in mind also. If you don't get picked up by an agent, that doesn't necessarily mean that your story's no good or that you're not a wonderful writer. It could simply mean that the market isn't hot at this point in time for the genre that you are writing within. So do keep that in mind. There is a lot to discuss and go over with traditional publication. If you have any questions, let me know down below. Like I said, I have taken classes in editing query letters, you know, and editing all of the ancillary documents that would go along with wanting to submit to traditional publishing houses, pull quotes, author bios, back cover blurbs, all of that good stuff. So those are our a la carte services. Those are like the little extra things that I do. Now let's dive into talking about our editing services, what they are, and why you might want to hire an editor for those professional services. Mew just joined us, so you might hear her crying in the video. Hi, Mew. Hi, darling. Okay, here she is. She is with us now. So the first thing we're going to go over is the Manuscript Critique. We do offer critique services. Now, in our manuscript critiques, they are not exactly the same as a developmental edit. And I've had a lot of clients ask me about this, and I have a whole write-up for clients who are curious about the difference between a critique and a developmental edit. Of course, you can look this up on your own, but just to keep it simple, a manuscript critique, or what is sometimes called like an editorial assessment or a manuscript evaluation, there are many different words for this. Through Enchanted Ink, the manuscript critique does a few different things. The first thing it's going to do is look at your craft and your skills as a writer slash storyteller. So something that comes up very often in the critiques that we do for our clients is stuff like learning how to show instead of tell, eliminating filler words, learning how to spot and get rid of filtering, sticking to a specific tense. Head hopping pops up a lot in our manuscript critiques. So I have cat hair on my face. I can feel cat hair on my face. I know, it's your cat hair, it's on my face. So those are the types of things that often come up in terms of craft. So we strive to offer feedback to writers that applies not only to the specific book they're writing, but to their craft and their skills as a storyteller just in general, so that they can then take that feedback on, okay, I know that I need to work with sticking to a specific tense, I need to work on show versus tell, and I need to work on filtering. And they can take that and they can apply it to anything they write in the future. So we always touch on craft, and then of course we discuss the actual plot, the world building, the character arcs and the character development, the tension, the stakes. I have cat hair all over my face. I can just feel it. So our manuscript critiques cover both craft slash skill and actual development of your story. We do not do rewrites for our clients. And this is something that can vary between a developmental edit and a manuscript critique. Some developmental editors, when I took my developmental editing classes, this is something that was definitely touched upon and encouraged, is that developmental editors often will rewrite things for you. It is a very, very deep dive into your book in terms of moving things around, helping you to revise and rewrite, and not all, I mean, no two editors are going to be exactly the same. So before you hire an editor for a critique, before you hire an editor for a developmental edit, make sure you have an understanding, a good, clear understanding of what their services entail, because like I said, everybody is going to be a little bit different. Now, when might you want a manuscript critique through Enchanted Ink, for example? You can get a manuscript critique as long as you're getting it before a copy edit. I have had a few clients who are confused about this. A manuscript critique needs to come first because a critique will lead to manuscript-wide revisions. It can lead to entire rewrites or even multiple rewrites. So I would suggest getting a manuscript critique after you have written and edited your book yourself. So you don't want to send a first draft. You generally do not want to send a first draft to an editor because you want to take the book as far as you can before seeking professional feedback. That's my suggestion. So you've written your first draft, you've edited it maybe 1, 2, 3 times. If you are able to gather a group of beta or alpha readers, that could be really helpful because these people, these readers will help you nail down problems that even your typical reader is going to notice versus like a professional editor is going to notice. So if you're able to do a round or 2 of alpha and or beta readers, that would be great. Do your revisions and then it can be time for your manuscript critique, because with that manuscript critique, you're going to get that professional level of focus on your storytelling skills and on your actual story, plot, characters, world building, etc. And then that leads us into copy editing. And oh boy, do I love talking about copy editing. It's probably one of my favorite things to talk about. So, copy editing. Do you need it? When should you get it? What is it? So, now that I am this deep into the writing, editing, and publishing world, I highly suggest copy editing for almost every single client. Now, you might not need a copy edit if, for example, you are writing a book just because you've always wanted to and you intend to print out a few copies and distribute them to your beloved family members and friends. But if you intend to sell your book and you want to try to build a business off of writing and publishing, then I highly suggest you find a copy editor that you click with, somebody who has the skills to take your book and your writing to the next level in terms of having correct spelling, punctuation, grammar, usage, adherence to a style guide, all of that good stuff. Having a really good copy editor it can make your writing really stand out in a crowd, because suddenly, you know, even if you're self-publishing, you have this beautifully written, meticulously edited piece of work, piece of fiction or nonfiction, and readers will really appreciate that. So if you intend to sell your book and you want to make a business out of this, I highly recommend copy editing, because it makes you look professional. And if you're trying to make money off of this, you want to be as professional as you can possibly be. And there have been, I know, many situations, I have run into some situations where a self-published book sounds really, really good, and then I buy it and I start reading it, and there are so many errors, you know, in the first chapter even, that it really takes you out of the world, it takes you out of the reading experience, and you're no longer immersed in that fiction, because you keep thinking, oh, well, here are all of these errors. This author clearly didn't have their work edited or professionally edited, and maybe I'll just move on and pick up a different book that doesn't have so many errors that I'm getting taken out of that immersive experience. So I do recommend copy editing in most cases. Now, what is a copy edit? I have had some clients come to me after a copy edit and express a little bit of confusion about what it was supposed to be. A copy edit does not typically, it does not include developmental editing. So a copy editor generally is not going to be giving you feedback on your story structure unless they see a big problem, but it's not necessarily their job to do so. That would be more of a manuscript critique or a developmental editor who's helping you develop that work of fiction. So a copy editor is looking for spelling, punctuation. Punctuation is a big one. A lot of people think that they can just skip out on copy editing because Microsoft Word will do a spell check for them, but it's so much more than spelling. I can honestly say that in my experience with copy editing, the majority of it, I'd say, is punctuation, because punctuation has so many rules. Like the number of rules for commas, I could not even go over in a video because there are so many rules for commas. Rules for when to use an em dash, when to use a hyphen, when do you use a colon, when do you use a semicolon, like where does the question mark go, where does the comma go? There are just so many rules, and Microsoft Word does not know all of those rules. Microsoft Word will often recommend things, like while I am editing for clients, Microsoft Word recommends things that are just straight up, in every sense of the word, just wrong. They're incorrect, and they're recommending these things because they're trying, like their algorithm is trying to help you, but it doesn't know all of the rules for punctuation. So that is a big one. Spelling, punctuation, adherence to a style guide. I talked in a previous video about what a style sheet is. An editor should be providing you a style sheet. That's a big, big, big thing that you need to have provided to you. Okay, I apologize. My my camera card was full, so I had to just quickly delete some stuff. But I was talking about style sheets and style guides. So a copy editor will adhere to a style guide. My main go-to is the Chicago Manual of Style. However, when I am editing for clients in the UK, specific clients, some clients will request that I use a different style guide. So for example, one of my clients right now, who's from the UK, I am using both the Chicago Manual of Style and Newhart's Rules to copy edit her book. So Chicago Manual of Style is quite detailed in terms of their guidance, but Newhart's Rules is more of like the UK or, you know, British approach to a style guide. So I'm using Newhart's Rules except for when NHR does not have a rule or a preference for something, and then I would adhere to CMOS. So if you have a preference for a style guide, you can of course let a copy editor know. But Chicago Manual of Style, for example, has rules regarding how to use punctuation. So Newhart's Rules and Chicago Manual of Style disagree on, you know, how to use an en dash, how to use an em dash, where does your closing punctuation go in relation to, you know, closing quotation marks. So that's something that a copy editor is going to clean up for you. Grammar, sentence structure, there's just so much that goes into a really full, meticulous, professional copy edit. And again, like I said at the beginning of this, before I went off on tangents, because that's what I do when I talk about editing, I do suggest copy editing for anybody who is trying to make a business out of their writing. And I am aware that copy editing can get expensive, especially if you are writing very long books. So there's a lot, you know, I'm very clear on the fact that there are options that need to be weighed. You know, we don't all just have endless amounts of money, so you do need to choose where you want to take that hard-earned money and what it needs to go toward. If you are able, copy editing is something I would recommend and suggest. You know, with like a manuscript critique, you can always seek outside help from beta and alpha readers, but a copy edit is something that really should be done by a professional, because there are just so many rules to adhere to that I do suggest getting a professional copy edit if you are able to. Now that leads us into proofreading. I have an entire video on the differences between copy editing and proofreading, because that can cause confusion for a lot of people, understandably, because it's like, okay, one is an edit and one is a proofread, so what is really different here? So a proofread is the last thing you're going to do. So after you've had your critique, after you've had your copy edit, after your book has been professionally formatted and you have your cover designed, the proofread is the very last thing. Now, a proofreader can work in a couple of different ways. They can work on an actual physical book, or they can work on a formatted PDF. You want to make sure the book has been formatted, because your proofreader is going to be keeping an eye out for any errors in formatting, you know, and in the layout. They're going to be making sure that you have your headers and your page numbers on there, and that every single chapter heading is styled in the exact same way, things like that. So that's why you want to make sure that your formatting is already complete. If you ask for a proofread on something that has not been formatted, some editors will probably provide that to you, but I do not suggest it, because you'll be missing out on getting a set of professional eyes on the consistency in regards to your formatting. So, like I said, some editors will work with a physical copy, some will work with a formatted PDF. My preference, I used to do both. Now I kind of leave it up to the client. I will always do my full proofread on a PDF using Adobe's markup function, and I can do a video on this. Some people have expressed interest in it. If you are interested in it, make sure to vote on it in my next poll when that comes up, and I can show you how to proofread on a PDF using Adobe Acrobat, like the free version. But having that physical copy too is really nice, because as soon as you open that book, you'll be able to tell, okay, these margins are off. You know, we need a slightly larger margin here for how many, you know, what the page count is. If you have like a behemoth of a book, you'll want more of a margin, like a gutter margin, so that people aren't having to like crack the spine to try to read the words on the page. So that's something that a proofreader will be looking for. Of course, they're looking for anything that slipped through the copy editing phase. I do want to say that copy editors will never get everything. Copy editors are not machines. We are human. You know, I can read a sentence 3 times, and it's only on the 3rd time that I realize, oh, my brain has been changing if to is, and that was an error, and now I need to correct it. So there will always be errors after the copy edit. Please keep this in mind. I saw somebody, this is a random story, but I saw somebody on Fiverr once who was trying to like hire a copy editor, and they said that if they caught one error in their book after it had been copy edited, that the editor would not receive payment. And I just thought, oh my goodness, this person does not understand what it's like to be like a human editor, because there will always be things missed. There will always be human error. You need to just expect that out of a copy edit. So you should be doing your own read through afterward, but then the proofread should be done with preferably a different editor, because their eyes are going to track the page differently. They're going to catch different things. So a different editor for your proofread. And if they're coming back with corrections, don't feel upset at your copy editor, because it's just human nature. We try to get everything, but there will always be things that are missed, hence the reason for a proofread. So the proofread comes at the very, very end of the process. Now, in terms of should you pay for a professional proofread, if money is something that, you know, you're really having to weigh, like, okay, I have this much money and I have to decide how I'm going to break this up and what I'm going to pay for. If you've gotten a professional copy edit, Bobo, please don't do that. She's scratching her face on my tripod again. If you've received a professional copy edit and you're not sure if your wallet can withstand the price of a professional proofread, then in this situation, I would say it would be completely okay to send out a few like arcs and ask people to assist you with proofreading, because once you've had that really meticulous copy edit by a professional, then if there's anything that was like obviously missed, like, oh, this should be if versus is, or, you know, the word the is missing here, those are things that friends, family members, and ARC readers can help you catch. So I do recommend a professional proofread if you can afford it, if your wallet can afford it, but if not, it's not a big problem as long as you have had that professional copy edit, those professional eyes on your book baby, then you can absolutely enlist the help of some, you know, trusted readers to assist you with the proofreading process. Okay. Now that we have talked about different types of editing, what those different editing services entail, and when you might want to pay to get a professional edit, now we can talk about our design services. So the first one is formatting, and I want to do an entire video on formatting because I think it's kind of like obscure. It's one of those niche things that not everybody knows about, and not everybody knows what a professional format can do for you. I did the formatting on a couple of my own books, and then I had a professional format done on Song of the Dryad, and now of course we offer professional formatting services, and it really it can take your book to the next level. Like, I will show you some examples of formatting here that we have done recently for clients, and it can really take a strong, beautifully written story and just make it a work of art for the person who's enjoying it and for the person who's reading it. So there is, of course, basic formatting you can do on your own. Basic formatting you can do via Word. I have a video on basic book formatting in Word. I'll leave it down below. But if you are ready to take that basic format and, like I said, turn it into a work of art and turn it into something that's going to make for a very unique reading experience, then a professional format is definitely something you might want to consider. And then, of course, we have cover design. Now, cover design is rather straightforward. I've done a video on this. Again, I'll link it down below. I have so many videos that will be linked down below. But a professional cover design is something that if you have a limited budget, which, let's be honest, the majority of us probably do, then a copy edit and a cover design are going to be the two things that are going to really enhance the quality of your book for a reader. So the copy edit is going to enhance the story itself. The cover design is going to catch a reader's eye. Now, that silly thing about don't judge a book by its cover, of course it's true, but at the same time, if you, and I can talk like this because I've done this myself, friends, I have made my own book covers, and some of the book covers I've made for my own books, like the first cover I made for Highborn, just terrible, terrible. I paid somebody to illustrate it and the illustrations turned out beautifully, but how I actually put those together in a cover design was just not good. So that's why I feel like I can talk like this, is because I have done it myself. Trying to make your own cover, if you do not have the skills to do so, I mean, it'll definitely save you money and you can definitely figure it out. I mean, KDP can give you templates. You just put in like the specs for your book, your formatted book, and they'll give you a template and you can throw it in Photoshop and you can just do your own thing. They can assist you. They have like a cover creator, I think, so you can always do that. Don't feel like you can't do that or like you absolutely have to get a professional cover design. You don't have to. It's of course going to be up to you, but a professional cover design completely changes the way that a potential reader is going to perceive, how they're going to perceive that book. So if you have, for example, let me show you. Again, I can do this because I've made my own ugly covers before. So here was the first cover I made for Highborn. I really like the artwork I got done. These little like character illustrations turned out so well. but I thought, okay, I'm just going to, you know, make the cover by myself. This screams, I'm a self-published book. And we have to be honest with ourselves. A lot of people judge self-published books because many self-publishers don't go the full distance in terms of quality control. Like this book even is like, the formatting is really, really messed up in it. And anybody who had ordered this book and opened it at this point in my publishing journey would have said, what the heck is wrong with this book and why does it look like this? So this is going to appeal to very, very few people, let's just be honest. And then you have a professional cover design. This instantly, in my opinion, catches your eye, especially if you're somebody who enjoys fantasy. This says, I'm a fantasy book and my author put in the time and energy to get a professional book cover, and that immediately inspires confidence in a potential buyer. So if we are thinking of writing and publishing as a business, then you have to keep in mind, all right, I need to not only market myself appropriately, and I need people to see my book in a small thumbnail on the computer and get interested in it, but I have to inspire confidence in the people who want to give me money to read the stories that I have written. So a professional cover design can absolutely do that. I mean, this is like a beautiful, you know, hardcover dust jacket, which we do offer at Enchanted Ink. Our cover designer, Thea, is wildly, wildly talented. She can do so much. So there is a real big difference between a cover that you've made on your own, this screams self-published, and a professional cover design that's been made by somebody who knows what they're doing and knows how to appeal to the audience who reads within this genre. And this screams, I'm professional and a lot of hard work has gone into making me. And that's what you want your reader to think is, oh, they've worked really hard on this and I bet it's going to be an amazing story and I want to pay my hard-earned money to read that book. So that was a very long-winded explanation of why you might want professional cover design. And then we also offer something that should be mentioned. We do offer illustrative work and character artwork. Again, Thea is super talented. But I do want to mention something that some people are confused by is that formatting and illustration are very different things. A formatter, like we do, can often use stock photos and do light photo manipulation in order to make your book a work of art, but that is not the same as illustration. So we do have some clients who have hired us for interior illustrations because they want something very specific. They want something that cannot be found in stock photos, and then they hire us so that we're doing the illustrations first and then the formatting so that we can take those illustrations and put them in that interior design work for your book. So that's the other last thing that we do at Enchanted Ink Publishing. So this turned into a very long-winded video. I'm sure you're used to that by now. That's just kind of the way that I roll here on my channel. If you have any further questions about any of our editing or design services, please let me know in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer every single one of them. Again, this is very specifically EIP, but at the same time, you can take this information and you can apply it across the board to, other cover designers, other formatters, other editors, other whatever, deciding between a copy edit and a proofread, for example. No matter where you go for your copy edit and your proofread, as long as it's a professional place, those are still going to be very different services. So you'll want to understand what is a copy edit versus what is a proofread. I hope this video has helped. I have put lots of videos down below, videos about cover design, blurbs, copy editing versus proofreading. I'm gonna do an entire video on formatting soon, so there's a lot of good stuff down there for you. I want to thank everybody who voted on this topic, and I also want to thank the person who originally requested it. I love when you guys request videos because it might be something that I am not thinking of, but if it's a question that you have and something that you want to see talked about, let me know. You can always let me know in the comments below my videos, but especially let me know in the comments below the polls in my community center, because when I'm preparing my poll for the next week, that's where I'm often looking for new ideas to put in that poll so that I know what you guys want me to film. So that is all for this video. I need to go film a 1K Q&A for my lifestyle channel. If you're interested in my second channel, it's always linked down below. It's like just the other stuff that I do in my life apart from writing, editing, and publishing. So I'm gonna do that. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and tell the algorithm that you enjoyed it so that it knows to, YouTube knows to advertise this video to other people who are looking for similar information. And of course, you can always hit subscribe and hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes live. That is all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for being here today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!